Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, throughout the year with Warzone, we saw a bunch of different meta updates, buffing and nerfing various different weapons every single season. And now here in Season 6 with MW3 just a couple of days away, I wanted to go through the overall meta one more time and rank the top 10 best weapons in the MW2 Warzone era. So, as we get into the setups and the weapons today, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful at all, do me a favor, drop a like on it, would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you are up to date every single day with all things going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button and of course turn on those post notifications. But starting first at number 10 here, I got the Kastov 545, and it's nice to see this here towards the end of the year because for the most part, you know, all year long, really up until I would say late season 5 and season 6 here, this has been a somewhat irrelevant rifle because it was lower damage. But now that they've adjusted so much, as we've talked about previously with the rifles in specific, this thing's a laser beam and it keeps up with the better guns in the game over the mid to long range. So I personally love the feel of this thing. You can change this setup around a little bit. I would say the constants here really are going to be the AMOT V4, the 45 round mag, or the 60 round mag. Either or works fine for that there. Then also the Harbinger D20 suppressor on here. It's a heavier one, so it's going to give you a little bit of control, some velocity, some range in there as well. And then you can mess around between a barrel and under barrel and ammo. Now, I find this to be so easy that I don't feel like you need an underbarrel, but some players will just simply prefer that stability. So I would say probably drop high velocity and throw on, you know, Ripper 56 underbarrel is probably the go-to option there. And then I go with the 406 millimeter barrel, better control, velocity, and range as well. And then obviously this is just going to optimize it for mid to long range too. So really it just depends on how you want the weapon to feel. Do you want the better hit reg feel with the better velocity? Do you want the better control of an underbarrel and a barrel combo? Mess around there and see what works the best for you. Either way, the 545 is actually feeling really good right now. Now at number 9, I've got a weapon that I feel like was underrated all year long, the HCR 56 LMG. This thing, much like the 545, super low recoil. This honestly might be the single easiest weapon to use in the game over long range. In terms of control, it's definitely up there towards the easiest for sure. And it really, because of that, and the fact that it has a great damage profile, the thing's just a beam over long range. It has one of the more competitive TTK options in the game, and when you factor in accuracy, few things are going to be able to keep up with this over range. Now, it's a little bit lower on the list because it's not as versatile. Being an LMG, it's obviously a little bit heavier, but hey, the thing still gets the job done. And we're really going all in on control here for the most part. AMOT V4, my preferred optic as always. If there's one you prefer more, always go for comfortability there. I go for the Stip 40 rear grip, straight up better control. I do use high velocity here just because frankly I don't feel like any of these barrels are all that good. The integrated suppressor ones are a bit too slow for my liking, so they're just not all that necessary. High velo gets the job done just fine. And then Ripper and Harbinger available here as well. We're rocking both those for the better stability, the better sway, velocity, and range out of the suppressor there. Super basic setup for mid to long range, but it's one that really does fry, and it doesn't take much to actually be able to beam players. Now at number 8, I've got the Geist, and admittedly this one was a bit higher up before the latest round of weapon updates, but this did receive a nerf. It's still one of the better rifles though, in my opinion, for sure. It's got the control. This thing is super easy to use, and its damage profile is good when you factor in that accuracy, that its realistic TTK is going to be really efficient over the mid to long range 40, 50, 60, 70 meter fights. It'll be able to hold its own there just fine if you're familiar with the control, and this setup is really based around control for sure. AMOT V4 here yet again in 45 round mag. This is the max in this case, so of course you're going to be running that. Ripper underbarrel yet again. In this case, I do not go for a suppressor. Instead, I go for the Bore 490 compensator. Basically just gets rid of all the horizontal bounce here, makes this pattern basically straight vertical, and it's super easy to predict because of that. If you wanted to upgrade to a suppressor, you absolutely could. Talon 5 would be my recommendation here for the better control, but not necessary in my opinion for the most part. Then I also go for the Bridle heavy barrel, better range, better control, better velocity, better pizza Papa John's up in here. It's feeling good over long range as well. Really my favorite rifle in the game right now, I would say, partially because it's new and it's fresh with season 6, but also it just feels great. Now at number 7, this is a fun one, the Bas-P, another weapon that, much like the 545, all year was pretty much irrelevant, but because it saw like 5 or 6 straight updates throughout the past couple of seasons, it's now to a point where it is phenomenal. Up close, it's surprisingly close to some of the faster TTK options, and in the mid-range, it really thrives. This thing has range like very few other SMGs do, so for that, it's incredibly versatile, good for sniper support, good for just a basic SMG secondary. It's kind of doing it all here, and I love that about it. 50 round drum, basic extended mag here, running that for sure. I got the Bruin flash rear grip for the better ADS and sprint to fire. We love those mobility benefits. We get even more of them on the flash V4 stock, sprint speed, strafe speed, ADS speed, 7 milliwatt laser, better ADS and sprint to fire. And then for some control, whether I'm fighting mid-range or just to keep the bounce minimal there, I do use the flash hider compensator for that better recoil steadiness, just helping out a little bit there. But really nice to see that the Bas-P can finally hold its own after all this time. Now at number 6, I've got the MP5 or the Lachmann sub, again just to sort of do it all SMG. This thing, particularly for those aggressive close range fights, is just a beast, and it has been pretty much the entire year. It again would be a little bit higher up if it hadn't seen some nerfs recently, but it still gets the job done just fine up close. Those first 10 meters, very few options are going to be better than this. Whether you're hip firing, ADSing, it's got the mobility, it's got the TTK, it's doing everything good, right? So here, I like the 40 round mag over the 50 just for the slightly faster reload, but either or there will be totally fine. TCG-10 rear grip offers better control, so that's nice, but then I go ahead and I tune it for the better mobility there, since we don't have an ADS and a sprint to fire rear grip. Mobile stock, better sprint speed, ADS strafe speed yet again, 7 milliwatt laser yet again. And then I love running the Falcon barrel on this thing for that better movement speed and ADS speed. You're just gonna fly around the map. You're going to fly and fry, really is what I should say. As you guys know, we love that phrase around here. Great mobility, like I said, and up close the TTK is one of the best in the game. Then at number 5, I've got the FR Avancer, one of the most versatile rifles in the game at the moment. For sniper support, for a standard primary, this thing really does it all, and it does it incredibly well. Its mid-range TTK is best in class, and even over long range it's best in class, just not as practical there because of the control here. This thing really thrives in that mid-range and early long range, and this setup works great for that. Whether you want to pair this with a sniper, it'll be a little bit slower, but still great for that sniper support, or just as a standard primary. AMOB V4 yet again. The 60 round mag, that fire rate here is a bit faster, so I do prefer this over 45. Ripper Runner barrel, just making that pattern a bit more predictable, of course. Harbinger suppressor yet again, better velocity, range, and control. Then I go for the FR 435 barrel, just offering control and velocity here, but again just making it more efficient, easier to use. We always love to see that. Like I said, one of the more versatile rifles, and really one of my favorite choices right now as well. Definitely one that we didn't get to use a ton of throughout the year because it wasn't as good as it is now, but nice to see that it's thriving here. Now at number 4, I've got the Sakin MG38, a weapon that honestly I've been pretty high on since the start of Warzone. It really hasn't changed all that much throughout the year. This thing is a low recoil laser beam, just like the HCR, just like the 545. It's not going to take much to pick up this thing and just fry with it, and its long range TTK is phenomenal. That's obviously where you're going to be using it because it's too slow to be using in the mid range or anything, but you get your sights up, you're fighting 50, 60, 70 meters. Few things are going to outgun this because it's just so easy and its damage is just so good. Again, we got AMOB V4, Stip 40 rear grip yet again here, straight up for the better control. Because this gun is so easy, I don't actually use the Ripper 56. Now you could if you wanted to. It's going to have a slightly slower ADS, but Edge is going to offer some stabilization and not hurt your ADS as much, so that's something to consider for sure. Polar Fire S suppressor here, better velocity and range. No added control. This is a lighter suppressor. Again, I just don't feel like you need it with how easy this gun is. Plus, we're also using the Silver Series barrel. It's better velocity, control, and range, getting some of that control back that you might be lacking elsewhere and still helping out with the velo and range at the same time. A setup that's really not all that heavy. I really love the feel of this in general. It is, like I said, so straightforward, and that's really the main takeaway from it in my opinion. Now probably my new favorite SMG in the game at the moment, again probably just because it's fresh, I would say, the ISO 9 here at number 3. Close range, this thing is insane. It's TTK in those first 10 meters, right up there with the best of the best. Hip fire is great, mobility is great. I just love the feel of this thing in general here. Initially we're going for the 50 round jump, pretty high fire rate, so we're going to want to have that on there, of course. Sheer rear grip for the better ADS and sprint to fire. The Res 2 stock offers sprint speed, strafe speed, and ADS speed, so of course we're running that. 7 milliwatt laser, a standard on the subs. Then I go for the flash hider here. You could also go for the KT85. You could go for the castle compensator. There are some good options here for sure. It's sort of just preference based. Most of them are going to be relatively similar though, but for a new SMG with season 6, this thing competes. It is fast, it fries. Like I said, I love the feel of this thing. Now at number 2, I've got the ISO 45, and really the main separation between this and the ISO 9 is the mid-range. While the ISO 9 drops off similar to like the MP5 for instance, this doesn't. The ISO 45 is like a mix of the ISO 9 and the MP5 and the Bas-P. It's got a little bit more recoil than all those, but if you can land your shots with it, it is by far the best SMG in the game still, and for some reason hasn't been nerfed like the whole year. And with that, the setup really hasn't ever changed. 45 round drum, sheer rear grip just like on the ISO 9. The Cheetah stock here is basically doing the same thing as the Res 2 was doing over on the ISO 9. 7 milliwatt laser here. Then in this case, I use the KT85. Again, you could use Castle Compensator, you could use the Flash Hider. Really just comes down to preference there. All of them are going to do well for this gun and for the situations you're going to be using it in. Crazy to me, honestly, that we never saw any drastic changes to the ISO 45 when it's been dominating close range for so long. And then of course at number 1, I'm sure plenty of you guys saw this coming, the RAPP, another gun that I've been super high on for a long time now, multiple seasons now. We've been talking about the RAPP and how good its TTK is over range. It's actually surprisingly easy to use despite the fact that it's got a fast fire rate and that fast TTK. Usually that means the recoil sucks. Not in this case. Again, a weapon that really hasn't been nerfed. Yes, it's slow and it's heavy and the reload sucks, but for the mid to long range where you're going to be using this, that's predictable stuff. You can plan around that and fight around that, and this thing's going to obliterate everyone. AMOB V4 here, TCG 10 rear grip straight up for better control. The 100 round mag just so I have to reload a little bit less in gunfights here and there. Those extra 25 bullets can come in handy. The Hound 9G underbarrel for better steadiness and just general recoil control, doing a little bit more than the Ripper 56 would, so of course we want to run that. Then the Talon 5 suppressor for the better velocity, range, and control on there as well. Love the feel of this thing. Glad that it never saw any major nerfs when it's sort of been thriving for several seasons now. Kind of underrated still in my opinion, but definitely you know, my go-to for long range if I just want to fry, whether it be in pubs or in ranked. And that being said, those are the top 10 best weapons here in Warzone right now, and potentially the last time we're ranking the top 10 best MW2 guns in the Warzone era. So if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on it, would be really appreciated. And if you're new here, you want to guarantee you're up to date with news, updates, meta breakdowns, everything going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.